Welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Well, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 214 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as every single time, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really do appreciate you making me one of them. If you're enjoying this podcast, and I would love for you to take a screenshot and share it on your socials and tag me. That would be super cool to get to know you a little bit more as well. And don't forget, you can find the show notes for this particular episode, from which we are talking about what content you should be creating in your business. You can find the show notes and all the links that I mentioned at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/214. But before we get started on today's episode, two really quick things. The first one, of course, is did you go and check out episode 213 with Nicole Smith talking about systems and processes? It was a great episode. So much gold from Nicole in there. If you didn't listen to that one, when you finish here, slip back, listen to episode 213. And the other thing is actually a favor I have for you today. So at the moment, I'm doing a collaboration with some amazing Australian thought leaders and doing the first ever big small business survey, and we want to really amplify the voices of small businesses heading into 2013 to see what's holding you back, where you see your biggest opportunities laying, and what you'd like to see done differently in small business. So if you can take 5 minutes of your time to fill that survey in, I would be so grateful. If you leave your email address, and you don't have to leave your email address, you will receive $500 worth of freebies from the 5 of us that are doing that. And trust me, these freebies are sensational. My freebie is all about building your marketing strategy. It's a 3-part video series, and it's exclusive to this survey at this time. So go and do the small business survey. You can find the links in the show notes, or you can go to bit.ly/smallbizsurvey 2022. If you think, oh my gosh, I can't remember that, just go to my social media. I've been posting about it for the last couple of weeks. I would really love to get some really good numbers for that survey and amplify your voice, because I really feel that this is what small business needs, especially heading into 2023, because the world's just so different to what it was 3 years ago, and we just don't have the stats that we need. Anyway, thanks for doing that. And hey, if you have an extra 5 minutes, can you leave me a rating or a review where you're listening to this podcast? I don't ask for them often. I'm going to start asking for them a little bit more, because I know that it really helps other people to know about my podcast. So I would really love if you have even more minutes to give me to leave a rating and a review. Okay, but on to today's episode. It's all about the content you need to be creating in your business, or really, so it's at least one angle for this one podcast, because it's a huge subject, this content creating. It is a massive subject, and I know that you are short on time, so I don't want to stay in your ears for hours talking about content creation. So I'm just taking one slither of an angle of this. So basically, I'm talking about the 3 buckets that your content should fall into. First bucket, content you love or like to create. Bucket number 2, content that performs well for the algorithm and for your audience more importantly. And 3, content you have time to create. If you can produce content that fills all 3 of those buckets, then you have more of a chance of growing your business into the profitable dream that you have always hoped for. Probably the whole reason why you started the business: profitability and freedom. If you can fill these 3 buckets with your content, you are more likely to do that. So what content do you make right now that falls into all three of those buckets? Something you like doing, it gives you an outcome such as sales, list building, trust building, authority, expertise, and you have time for it. So press pause now, or at the end, get a pen and paper out and start writing a list. What content do you produce that you like doing, gives you the outcome you want, and you have time for it? And maybe not even just writing a list of what's working, but what's not working. What do you hate doing? What do you have no time to do? And frankly, it doesn't give you the result that you want. And you can't say marketing. You can't say marketing altogether. You have to be more specific than that. Okay? For me, what works and falls into all three buckets, of course, is what you're doing right now, listening to me on a podcast. I love podcasting. It performs well. I get about 1,500 to 2,000 listens every episode, and I have time to create it. Okay. Okay, the last one's a little bit harder, really. Like sometimes I get behind in creating these, this piece of content, creating it on the fly, a little bit like today, when I really should make time to batch this type of content and create it in batches, but I don't. But in my defense, I haven't missed a week in almost 4 years. So I do make time to do it, even when sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit pushed to do it. But I do it because of the other two things. I push myself because I like doing it, and it performs really well and gives me the outcome that I'm looking for. So like I said, for me, the third option is the hardest, time to create. And I'm sure many of you are nodding your head right now. Unfortunately or fortunately, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's just how we choose to use it. And maybe even, and if you're finding it hard to find the time, then maybe it's time to get help to do it. Getting more help in 2023 to produce more content is definitely what I'm working towards in the final months of 2022. It's really what I want to do. And I say really like that because I just squashed a mozzie. It's just mozzies everywhere. See mozzies at your house? They're just driving me insane. And I missed it. I got it that time. All right, back to what I was saying. 2023 is where I want to produce more content, but I need more help. So that's my goal. I need to get help to produce this content. But content that performs well, I think that's worth exploring a little bit more. So you might be thinking, Jen, my socials don't perform well. I don't like doing them, and I rarely have time. Am I right or am I right? Is that where you're thinking? You're kind of thinking, does social media fall into any of these buckets? So I guess what I need you to do is I need you to put on your strategic marketing hat and answer these questions. Do your socials not perform well because you don't take the time to produce the content that your audience wants, but rather you're always thinking about what the algorithm wants? Or do you not have time because you are too busy trying to create content you think you need to create rather than what your audience is actually asking you for? Or if you did take time to research and produce content that your audience wants, do you think then that your socials would bring in a better return on investment on that time? What if you had a strategy? Would that help? Pointing and singing and dancing on Instagram Reels has worked for some. Absolutely, it has worked for some. They have pointed and danced their way into a fortune, and it's a great business model. But if you are dancing and singing, we might not be friends after this comment, but for those who have amassed loads and loads of followers, purchased expensive cars from growing their Instagram audience, dancing and singing, have created a business to teach others to do that. That is their business. You have a look at the people that are most successful at, well, certainly I can think of a couple of Australian people who are most successful at, using Instagram Reels and dancing and singing and twirling and doing, all that sort of really upbeat thing. And they've grown these huge followings, and that's become their business. It's basically, I've grown my business on Instagram doing this. Do you want me to teach you how to do it? Great. Buy my course and I will teach you. And they're basically teaching you how to sing, dance, and point. Now, I might sound like I'm dishing these people, but I'm really not. It's a totally legitimate business model, and they have totally legitimately grown their followers. They've found their tribe. Their tribe has followed them, bought their course. So it's perfectly, it's an amazing business model. And it's not dissimilar to mine in some ways. I know marketing. I know what works, what doesn't work. If you want to know more about marketing, come and do my course or be my client. I'll teach you. So the business model isn't dissimilar. But if you're not if it's not in your business values, or it would be unauthentic for you to dance and point on a reel, which it would be for me, for instance, then you might be thinking, that's what people want, and yet I can't do that. So why try? Right? Wrong. Not everyone wants to see that. Your people want to see you say what you have to say. You need to just figure out the methodology of delivery for that particular message. Like, do your people want to hear from you in podcasts, in blogs, in Instagram stories, in Reels, in TikToks, on Facebook, in groups, whatever that is? That's the trickier bit. So there is a tribe out there for you. They want to hear what you have to say. You don't have to dance, point, and sing to have them. You've just got to figure out where these people hang out. So what content do you love to make? If it's none, then it's time to hire a content creator in your business. Because if you're in business, you are in the business of marketing, and marketing is content. You just can't escape the reality of that. You do need to produce some content somewhere on some level to market yourself. So if you don't love to make particular pieces of content, what could you learn to love if you love nothing? But what you do love, do more of it, because there's every chance that you are loving doing it, then your audience is getting that vibe from you, and therefore they're possibly loving it as well. So maybe you need to do more of the content you love, like that full circle stuff. You love it, they love it, it produces the result that you want. So find what you love creating, or try new things to find a new love of content creation. Make time to do it. Have a strategy behind it. Test it, measure it, polish it. Test it, measure it, polish it. Start with 2 things of the 3. I love doing it. I have time to do it. And then strategically watch the data to see if it then performs well for your audience. You don't need viral content. You probably couldn't handle the business if you did go viral anyway, but you do need your people to see it, interact with it, and enter the vortex of a sales process. Remembering, of course, there has to be many touch points in many cases to make a sale. Sometimes there needs to be not many touch points at all, but sometimes there is a long linear line of touch points before you can make that particular sale. So let's just head back to time a little bit more before I finish out this particular podcast. If you don't have time for content, then my best advice to you is to do more video. Pick up your phone, click record, talk for 15, 30, 60 seconds or 4 minutes if you like, put captions on it and upload it to your socials where you want it to be, or embed it in an email. Content done for the day in less than 5 minutes. And if you don't like video, but you don't have time to create content, then my dear amazing human, you are going to have to choose one or the other. You are going to have to find more time to create content, or you will have to get over your fear of video. And I don't say that with any lightheartedness whatsoever. Been there, still don't like video, but do it because I know that it works. The more you do something like that, the better, of course, you will become of it. The better you will become at it, I should say. Having a one hero piece of content that you can repurpose the heck out of, and if you want to know more about repurposing, head back and listen to episode 53 of this podcast, which has got all the repurposing hacks in it. But having a hero piece of content can also help with time constraints and content building issues. Hero pieces of content could be like a blog or a video or a podcast. It's substantial enough that you can repurpose it, slice and dice it, but it's also consistent. So you blog every week, or you podcast every week, or you do a long video every week. So that's basically a recipe for hero pieces of content. Content creation and strategy is a massive subject, one that I talk to my clients and my audience about a lot. And today was a bit of a quickish episode and was really just all about getting you to think a little bit more about the content you create or don't create, but should. So my wish for you today after listening to this is that you will find some content that falls into all three buckets. You love doing it, you have time to do it, and your audience loves and responds to it and gives you that return on investment that you need from it. So what do you think? Go and write yourself a list. What content falls into those three buckets? You love it, you have time to do it, the audience responds well to it. Or make the bucket and add to that bucket list what you don't like. What do you hate doing? You don't have time for it. And frankly, it just doesn't work. And maybe look at the hard data before you make any decisions, though. Maybe it's time to flip up that. Maybe it's time to look at your strategy, your marketing strategy a little bit differently. As always, if you want to chat about a marketing strategy, you can always make a discovery call with me at bit.ly/discoverwithjen. Of course, the link for that is in the show notes, and we can have a bit of a chat on how we can get your marketing strategy to work a little bit better for you in your funnels and your nurture sequences, and just get your marketing humming for 2023, which is coming really, really quickly. Or you know what, for the busiest season of the year for many of us at the end of 2022. Otherwise, let's have a chat in my Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group. If you're not a member over there, come and join that one. But otherwise, I'll see you on episode 215 next week. I would really love that. Before I go, please head over and do the small business survey. If you can, share it with some other people as well. You know, the more numbers we can get, the better the stats, the bigger difference that we can make for small business. Again, that link was bit.ly/smallbizsurvey 2022. You will, of course, find all the show notes for this podcast at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/214. So go and check it out there. In the meantime, if we're not hanging out on social, come and find me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. I would love that. And if you can think of a subject or a podcast guest that you would love to hear on this podcast, then get in touch with me. I would love to know about that as well. But whatever you do, remember, my small business peep, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.